Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Love Seat. I'm Dana Sardano. This is Steffi Starr.
Good morning.
We are sitting here in Ubuntu Fish Gallery on, I'm just going to throw out there, week 17 of my children being home. Just thought I'd add that. But Ubuntu Fish Gallery is an artist gallery and intuitive lounge located in Stuart, Florida, just off downtown Stuart a little bit. And we create, we interact, we have workshops, we have readings, we have connected spirituality and creativity so they both can flourish in tandem. And that's enough about me. I am so looking forward to what Miss Steffi Starr has to say today because she came in looking all ready to talk. So I'm just going to sit back and watch the show.
All right.
Steffi Starr.
Thank you, Dana, dear sister. Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm Steffi, and I am a spirit plant facilitator. I hold space for people who do inner journeys using the molecules available to us in nature. And that's kind of part of my topic today. I got all dialed up because today is a very auspicious anniversary for me. And it didn't even really occur to me until this morning in the shower, like what the date is, what it represents, what happened earlier in the week. So let me just tell you, on July 6th, and I realize today's July 8th, 2020, but on July 6th, 2016, I was a married woman, amicably separated. We were in counseling. I had a business that I had started from scratch as a result of a political protest at the time. If you remember, 2008, 9, and 10 started the economic downturn. And as a result of that, looking at my life and in general, I started making soap. And making soap was my way of taking my money out of the multinational corporate lobby system. It was my way of keeping my business local, not supporting big box stores, not supporting these multinational corporations. So I was in a my store had been in existence for 3 years, and I was doing very well. I was very successful. I had international wholesale accounts. And I love that business. I really felt like that business came to me from the universe in co-creation, and in tandem, we made this beautiful little space in Port St. Lucie where people learn how to brush their teeth with soap and make their own household cleaners and pet care products. And it was amazing, and I loved it. But on July 6th of 2016, I knew that there was more to me. I knew that the life I was living, as beautiful as it may have appeared on the outside, was not the life I was intended to live. And it's kind of like being in a dress that doesn't fit or an outfit that just doesn't suit you any longer. Maybe you've grown out of it chronologically, maybe you've grown out of it physically, but I felt very constrained and constricted in my life. I was married to a lovely man, but I did not belong married to him. I was running this business, but the minute I realized that my life needed to shift, that business stopped paying me literally that week. So things were happening in my experience to show me you don't belong here anymore. So on July 6th, 2016, on a leap of faith, literally, this was such a leap of faith. I had only known one other person who had ever done this. I engaged in what at the time I called a spiritual retreat, but it was an ayahuasca journey. I had the opportunity to go spend a weekend at a spirit plant church, an ayahuasca church in Orlando, Florida, actually. And long story, whole different show as to how ayahuasca called to me. But she so completely, and we refer to her as a she because the energy of ayahuasca is specifically predominantly feminine. She had called to me years before, but July 6th, 2016 was a direct path to her. It was like she was standing at the alcove calling me down the road that I needed to walk in order to have the experience I needed to have with her. And I said yes to that, not knowing what I was walking into, not understanding what it would look like on the other side, but I just knew that I had to do it. And in that knowing and in that willingness, I had 2 ceremonies that weekend. I had the opportunity to do 3. 2 was plenty. 1 was almost way too much. And that's a whole nother
I've
story.
heard stories.
I wanted to like get the F out of town like the minute I came out of my first experience. But just
So I'm sorry. So you say you had 2 ceremonies.
2 ceremonies.
So you did it. You recovered.
Right. You do it, you recover, you go into ceremony again, you recover, you go into ceremony again. I only went into ceremony once. I had a full day of recovery. I did not engage in a second ceremony, and I participated in the last ceremony of the weekend. So it was Friday night and Saturday night. Friday night was enough to, like, literally, I was waiting to get in my car to drive home. I didn't care that the money had been spent. I didn't care that I wouldn't get it back. I was like, I'm getting the F out of here because I just saw more. Listen, there is a reason why they say you should not look into the face of God.
Okay.
Because when you look into the face of God looks into you. And you cannot unsee what you've seen. And you cannot unknow what you know. And you have to be able to come home and integrate that. So long story short, I did stay for the third of 3 ceremonies. I did not participate in the second one. I was not ready. But I knew I had one other question that I had to address with her. And I owed her a very large thank you.
Her, Ayahuasca.
Her, Aya, yes, the grandmother of the universe. The face of God, as I called it that weekend. That was July 6th. And on July 8th, when I came to and we integrated.
When I came to.
Well, when you come back. I mean, literally,
I'm
go
sorry.
out into a different dimension. You're not in this realm. I mean,
I know.
a lot of this that I'm about to explain and talk about that we're talking about right now isn't for everybody because not everybody gets what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
But I have been outside of this dimension. I have sat in audience with the grandmother of the universe. I have looked into the face of God and had the face of God look into me. And that was my ayahuasca journey. And the interesting thing was on that weekend with this business, with this marriage in limbo, with this life that I knew didn't quite feel right anymore. She looked at me and she said, you're going to live in a commune and you're going to share plant medicine. That was what I called spirit plant at the time. That's what a lot of people call all of these molecules in nature. I don't call it that anymore, but that's a different story. She said, you're going to live in a commune and you're going to share plant medicine. And I was like, okay, but I don't know how the hell that's going to happen. And interestingly enough, within 6 months of coming home from that weekend, on July 8th, the person who...
2016,
the person who drove out of Orlando was not the person who drove into Orlando. And within 6 months of that day, I knew my marriage was over. I gave away the business that I had birthed from scratch in accord with the universe. And I walked out of the last structure I ever called home. I don't call where I live home. I call it 4 walls and a roof. My home is in my heart. I spent 9 months doing what I call living at large, where in an effort to understand non-attachment, I simply walked out into the world with a 50-quart storage bin full of like my absolute necessities: clothes, books, toothbrush, a couple baubles for the body, 2 or 3 pairs of shoes, and like no money in my pocket. Like I literally walked out of reality. I walked out of my life. And so many people at that point in time thought I was crazy. And I was one of them. I was one of them. I didn't know if what I was doing was right. I just knew what I had been doing was wrong. And there's nowhere to go when you realize that the life you've built over, I was 48 at the time, over 48 years, doesn't exist anymore, or it's no longer for you. There's no person to ask, should I live homelessly? I mean, literally, I had people tell me everything from you're brave to you're crazy to you're dangerous to maybe you should think about going up to the pavilion at Longwood. I mean, literally, like that's the psych part of Longwood Hospital. But what I knew was it was time to do this. It was time to step away from everything I knew and kind of lose my mind to find my soul. And that all started on July 8th when I drove out of Orlando, when I drove away but took with me the most incredible energy I had ever experienced in the entirety of my existence here. And that is my source self. My highest self, my divine self, the grandmother of the universe is me. God is me I am it. It is all that is. So if it is the only energy in existence, then we are all it. And I take that literally, and I believe that literally, and I live from that space as with that as a literal truth. And here I sit in this breathtaking, not only is this space beautiful because of the art, this space is magical. It holds an energy that until you come here and feel it, I cannot describe to you. It is an experience that you have to have. I sit next to this woman who created this magical glittery unicorn that came out of the Pleiades or the other dimensions. At this point, none of it really requires words. It's not really necessary. Words can tend to confuse us more than make things clear at times. She made this, and because I created something like this, because the soapbox, if you'd ever been there, and there are those of you who've been there, it wasn't a soap store, it was the cathedral. I called the front door the portal, and the last thing I did there was sell soap. It was an energy vortex for sure. That's what this is. I'm sitting next to this woman. I am a spirit plant facilitator today. I sit with people. I hold space and energy while they go to these other dimensions that I visited that changed my entire life, that changed my entire personhood. I do that today from an equally beautiful energy vortex in White City, where I do now live, and people come and go. It is a commune of sorts. 4 years to the day, this is my life. Because I was aware and because I was willing to do so many things on so many levels. And as much as I celebrate that anniversary today for me, I am sitting here telling you this story. Not to get a pat on the back, not to have anybody look at me and go, oh my God, that's amazing. Isn't she special or wonderful? She's not special or wonderful. She is you. If you know your life doesn't fit, if you feel constrained by what you've created, this is hard to hear, but it's the truth, and it comes from love. You're the obstruction to where you want to be. You are the roadblock to what is next. There is nothing, there is no one holding you back save you. I learned that experientially, and I can't even say the hard way, because this 4 years has been such an incredibly breathtaking blessing. There has been horror, there has been bliss, there has been joy. It has all become one for me on this path. And I love you enough to sit here and tell you, I see you. And I'm going to be honest. If you're not where you want to be, you're the thing in the way. And there is no one coming to save you. This is a solitary road. We walk it with friends that we share our experience with, but we do this work alone. This is a solitary doing, as much as anything can be done by us, because at the end of the day, after all the awareness, after all the willingness, it was grace that left me here. Grace has brought me this far. Grace has removed obstacles for me that I knew and didn't know were there. But it stemmed from my awareness and willingness. I had to see what was there, and I had to say yes to the journey. And beyond that, I have nothing else for you. There's no other answer. It's as simple as the shoes on your feet and the love in your hands and the light in your eyes. It's as simple as that. We want to make it hard. We want to read a million books. We want to go to all these different retreats, and you are the answer. It is all in you. There are ways to find that answer inside of you. Spirit plant is a profound tool, but so is meditation. So is silent stillness. So is fasting. So is yoga. I mean, there's a million myriad ways to get there. But the answer isn't out there. The answer is in you, as is the obstruction. And that's a great gift, because I can't control anything or anybody but me.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say about today.
You are just so beautiful.
I love you.
And I love that every time you talk about something that matters to you, you get all teary-eyed and all sort of connected. And I'm like, oh, there she goes. I'm listening to you, and I'm like, don't say anything. Let her do her thing. and then we'll say goodbye and we'll move on. But I have to add 2 cents.
Please, no, I want you to. Because you're magical too, and you are aware and willing too.
Oh, yeah.
And you have
almost
a life.
To the point of irresponsibility.
You have a life that has revealed what awareness and willingness can bring.
Yeah. And I've had many people tell me, yeah, but you had blah, blah, and I can't do it because blah, blah. And I'm like, no.
Right.
But the thing that I wanted to bring up is I've been noticing a theme in the lives of the people that I care the most about, just my inner circle. And the theme is, as we grow, evolve, shift, right, especially with all the craziness in the world around us, we are letting go of our old selves. So every day on some level, some days it's, much more severe, but every day on some level we're letting go of our old selves, old habits, old belief systems. And what we'll do is we'll move forward, and then we'll kind of regress into a little bit of a pattern of the old self, and then we beat ourselves up, which we shouldn't, and then we continue. And I've been seeing this, and I've been seeing it in myself. I'm like, oh, why am I holding on so tightly to this identity when this identity never really served me, right? Mm-hmm. And as Stephi was talking about 4 years ago today, she made this change, and her life is just magical. I mean, I watch her live it on a daily basis. If you don't know my story, and I'm sure most people that are watching do, but 2015, January 2015. So now we're moving on 5.5 years. I picked up a paintbrush for the first time. Was a career educator, worked in administration, had worked with kids with learning disabilities, mentored teachers, worked on behavioral modification programs, was in charge of all things discipline, was always fighting the system, always fighting the administration, fighting with teachers, fighting with the parents, just what I believed how kids should learn. And it was always this fight uphill, even though there was a gift there. I obviously was in education because this is something that I was passionate about, but I was always fighting upstream. By 2017, so January 2015, I picked up the paintbrush. By June 2017, I left the only career I'd ever known. And what I realized in that school year, so from fall of 2016, like August 2016 to June 2017, I walked in August 1st, said to my principal, you got me for another year, I'm done here. I was at that school 16 years. I was in education for like 23 years at that point. So I knew, it's sort of like when you break up with somebody and then you're like, okay, our lease is up in 6 months, so we'll live together for 6 months, and every day you want to stab them in the head, right? It was kind of like that,
Been there,
right?
done that.
So for a year, I was in this place that I knew I no longer belonged, like you said, and I was really like throwing up in my mouth every day driving there. And the people that I worked with probably felt the same way because, I obviously was radiating discontent. But what I learned in that year, and I'm lying, I didn't learn it in that year. What I learned in the year after I left that I didn't realize was happening in that year is I had this identity of, I was Dana Sardano, I had them call me the Dean of Awesomeness.
Oh, I love it.
I was the Director of Student Development. I had to sign this in the Dean of Awesomeness because I remember when I got promoted, my principal said to me, and he entertained this silliness I call myself, and he's like, well, what do you want to be called? And I'm thinking, why are you having me pick my title? I'm like, well, I want to be called, I was like 35. I was like, I want to be called the Dean of Awesomeness. And they started calling me that. Like, we would be at a conference call with like a college for a student, and he'd be like, yeah, so we're with Dana Sardano, the Dean of Awesomeness.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So somehow I got them to call me that. But anyway, I was the Director of Student Development, Dean of Awesomeness, and I had children later in my career. So my whole identity was about that career, that job, who I was there. It was all very ego driven, and I was this person. And as that started to chip away, because I didn't leave because things were going well, right? I left because I was no longer in alignment, right? When I was leaving and I wasn't happy there and things weren't the way they used to be, the way when we started the school and things were changing, I learned later my unhappiness, my being disturbed was about this loss of identity. That's the identity that's who I was. I was Dana Sardano, the Director of Student Development, Dean of Awesomeness. I was all this, which is nothing. You know what I mean? But in my head, I was this. And as that crumbled, I really mourned. It took me a year after I left. So I left June of 2017. It took me an entire school year. When you're an educator, everything is school years, right? So people say year, and I'm like, yeah, the year starts in September. But it took me an entire year to mourn the loss, not of that job, but to mourn the loss of that identity.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, develop a new identity. I mean, I'm,
Yep.
Dana Sordano, artist, business owner, go to work every day with no shoes on, mother of two, blah, blah, friend, wife, whatever. We need to identify with something. But that was really a pretty serious lesson for me. And when we realize that, when we are evolving and we are growing and changing, and we can't, ooh, that was gross.
It's nature. Go on.
That was
It's
a piece of fruit from like an hour ago. You're welcome.
I love you.
I'm so pretty. But when you catch yourself wanting this, your trajectory's here. I want to be happy. I want to be healthy. I want to be whole. I want to be in a healthy relationship. I want to have a successful financial situation. Whatever it is you want. But you keep doing things that bring you here, rather than beat yourself up, rather than have the self-loathing. Just go, oh, be kind to yourself. Oh yeah, I'm used to being this.
Right.
This was my identity. I'm going to honor this identity, and I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to focus on things that bring me to this identity. And if I do it again, I'm going to recognize it. And every day I'm going to do fewer things that are in alignment with that old self. And just what you said really, for me, was very impactful and had me thinking about that, because there's so many of us that do that. We want this, but we keep doing this. Right? We want this beautiful relationship, but why do I keep cheating on my husband? Well, because you're used to that sort of, again, behavior, identity, lifestyle, whatever it is. So I got to say, my hat off to you for being amazing. And in 4 years, completely turning your life around. For me, 5 years, everything's different. Everything has changed. And I never look back. Life is beautiful. You just have to be able to see it.
It is. It is amazing. Every bit of it. I sat with my niece yesterday. She's 19 years old. And this bright light of a human being sat across the table from me and expressed to me her absolute astonishment at the idea that she can create her world. She literally went down this laundry list of, I set my mind to this and it happened. I knew I wanted that and I went in that direction. At 19, she doesn't have all of the baggage that most of us, I have found, perhaps you have too, our circle of friends, our like little close-knit group of, magical unicorn women in particular, we're all in and around the same age. This all starts to kick off in the mid to late 40s. And then, and it extends on into the 50s and 60s. But it all kind of seems to happen like where we've lived this life, we get this identity that you just spoke of, and then we realize, oh, this suit doesn't fit anymore. Imagine never putting on the suit. So here I sit with this 19-year-old woman who expresses to me what her life looks like to her from that perch that it took me 3 decades to arrive at. She keeps saying to me, and I know it takes a long time, and I'm like, hon, you're 19 years old. I'm like, you've been here for a nanosecond. If I blink my eyes, I can make 5 of you. And it is one of the takeaways from that weekend with Aya was the universe is malleable by our intention, and it absolutely is. Not because we're outside of it, because we are the universe. Because there is a singular energy, and in the aligning with that energy, in that daily death to the egoic self, to the old patterns in particular, because ego serves. Listen, somebody's got to hand you the spirit plant. Somebody's got to paint these paintings. Dana, the egoic Dana, paints these paintings. The ego, Stephanie, this thing, this label, list of nouns, labels, and adjectives.
It's not a bad word.
No, ego is imperative. But do you run your ego, or does your ego run you, is the question. And at the end of the day, the little death, this idea of being born again, I grew up in a born-again Christian household, and I heard, oh, you have to be saved. You have to be born again. And I'm like, well, nobody fucking told me I had to fucking die for real first. and that you got to die every day. Like, there is truth in all of the religious philosophies. I do believe that there is a singular truth. There's a truth, right? And we use our limited language and our limited experience as like human form and construct with all of our duality here to try to translate it into some semblance of what that universal knowing is. But that universal knowing, when you're aligned with the energy, the primal energy that you are, all of that knowing becomes second nature. It becomes common sense. It becomes like it rains down. And the beautiful part of understanding what I am now is that I'm not run by who I am. I take who I am and I use her as necessary. But my alignment with this thing that placed all of this here for me to have this experience, that alignment allows me to manifest every reality. Every reality that is for me is happening because I am aware and willing participant in this energetic experience called Stephi. And to watch a 19-year-old sit there and tell me, I know that I create my life. I know that the world I live in is a direct result of my behaviors, thoughts, and actions. I'm like, wow.
And just I want to add a piece for the moms in the house that my primary purpose with my students that I've had over the years and with my children, go back to personal accountability, is teaching them in a way that they understand that they are. Now she's saying I'm the creator of all this, but I am the one who creates the consequence. Consequence could be positive or negative. And I have a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old in that room over there, and my 9-year-old, oh my God, she's so cute. I just want to eat her face off. And she is now in the process of learning, and it's painful for both of us, I'm not going to lie. And she's now in the process of learning that when she makes a decision and she doesn't like the outcome, that nothing is happening to her. It starts there. It starts there. I just have to share something that happened yesterday.
Please.
Yeah. Can I tell the story yesterday about your knee? Okay, never mind. So I'm not going to share that story, but I will tell you this. There was a bit of an upheaval in my home, and we had to trace back the steps, right? This one wasn't the villain, this wasn't the villain, this one wasn't the villain. Trace back the steps. And at the end of the day, at the very kernel of it, is if you didn't do this, none of these things would happen. Okay. And in the end, we wouldn't have had this Chernobyl, as I called it.
She did. She texted me. She's like, girl, it was
Chernobyl in my house today. But the reason I'm even sharing any of this is because we want our children to be happy. And this is a completely different direction, and I'm not going to spin off on it. But we want our children to be happy in the classroom. We want our children to be happy in our homes. And a lot of times it's easier for us to just make sure that they're happy. But it's the most important thing, I think. I'm one person with one opinion. It's the most important thing that they understand that everything they think and everything they do creates the reality around them. As simple as, hey, you hit the dog, this didn't happen. You hit the dog bit you. The dog wasn't angry, the dog wasn't, nasty. You hit the dog. Therefore, the dog bit you. It's cause and effect in relationship. That's actually the definition of karma. Cause and effect relationship. People like to use it for all these different things. But that's really, really what it is. And if we could start them there, then by the time they're 19, they're like, whoa, look at the painting I'm casting on this canvas of life. And then by the time they're our age, they don't have to start from scratch at 40. Right? So it's just something to think about. Just a little gentle reminder. Hold your kids accountable. Public service announcement.
I love CPSA.
Well, yeah, right. But I've seen the consequence, in education, I've seen what it looks like in a 15-year-old when they're not being held accountable, when they're enabled. I've seen it.
Oh,
I've
absolutely.
Seen what it looks like.
Absolutely. And we see it today all over our country. We see it today. Listen, it's so easy to point a finger at he who does what to whom. But it all starts somewhere prior to that. It starts somewhere before that. We have to be willing to trace back our steps all the time, whether it's as an individual, whether it's as a collective, whether it's as a community. We have to be willing to go, but how did we get here and fixing and putting a Band-Aid
Oh,
on
that's
the
why
boo-boo.
I'm telling you, there's Band-Aids all
Yeah,
over
no,
people,
when
but
you
meanwhile
need to
there's
go
this
back-
festering wounds.
See.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, we rewind, go to our personal accountability.
Yeah,
whatnot,
that was the last one.
Yeah. But I
anyway.
mean, I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, thank
for
you,
everything.
sister.
You look so pretty. I like your dangly
Thank you,
earrings.
so do you. By the way, and I never really mentioned this, but if you want to know more information about Ubuntu Fish Gallery, if you want to know more information about what Dana does and what's available here to you, if you want to know more about what I do and what's available to you through me, I always put our links and stuff down in the description. So there's links to both of our websites. There's ways to figure out how to get these fabulous Ubuntu Girl painted and channeled message coffee mugs.
Amory Sporting.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop. Hi, sister girl. Miss you so. Anyway, we see you. We love you. We're grateful for you. And yeah, that's it. There's really nothing else to say.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank
and
you.
See you next time on
Yes.
Love Seed.